Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. This is one of the coolest groups, been on consistently since we started our Spotlight show 19 years ago, on what they do for seniors and the families of seniors and the grandkids of seniors and name it, has just been spectacular. Joining us is Todd Kaprielian. He is the Foundation Chief Executive Officer, been involved with the organization for 21 years. How you doing, Todd?
I'm doing really well. It's great to be here.
Well, listen, you guys have just amazing content, and I can't wait to get into some of this. So what's the mission of St. Paul's?
St. Paul's, we are leading the transformation of the aging experience.
And what I've loved about it since the time you folks were on here, and you do it with the utmost care to make sure that people age with dignity. That is in your DNA. Talk about how important that is.
Absolutely. You know, as people go through the aging experience, they have more and more challenges in mobility and really their independence. And they're starting to see that gradual decline, and they have less control in their lives. So what we do is we try to embed as many options and opportunities for them where they have choice, so that they're able to find that autonomy of what it is that they want in their day-to-day life.
Yeah, and one of the focuses, not the only, but one of them is, have them, the folks that be in your homes, okay? We can come to you, don't be displaced and all that business. And we all know that, and it's talked a lot about now, not that it wasn't there before, but isolation is a huge, huge issue with seniors. Always has been, but it seems to be amplified now. Talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing we got out of COVID is that literally isolation can be a huge decline and really lead to death if you're not careful. So what we do with our programs is we make every effort to bring people out of their rooms in our residential communities so that we have activities that they can do and really contribute and be stimulated by other people, whether it be staff or residents or even family members coming to visit. In our PACE program, we have a very robust social interactions. So they come into the center. What's great is they come into a center for healthcare services, but at the same time, they come in for social services. From their point of view, they're coming in to see their friends. But along the way, you'll have that nurse or that CNA come and say, hey, the dentist is ready for you now. Oh, okay. So now they can stop their activity, whether it be art or singing or dancing. I mean, it's a variety of things. And then be able to take care of the healthcare. And once that's wrapped up, they can come back and resume what they were doing on a social basis. So we really believe that socialization, that kind of stimulation, being around people, it just adds so much quality of life.
Well, it does for 46 different reasons. And as well as that, these seniors have so much to give back. They got so much knowledge in them. They want to share that knowledge. And we talked about this quite a bit with your recently retired colleague, Amanda Goyce, that, when they are put together with, folks like our associate producer who's at UCSD, and the kids understand, man, there's a lot of life left in this senior and a lot of brain work on this. Talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much history. Over at St. Paul's Manor, we have a gentleman, he's over 100 years old. He's independent, and he can tell you personal stories about World War II. And that's becoming more and more of a treasure. And to be able to have those interactions and the personality of folks, it's really tremendous. We have across the street from us over in Bankers Hill a charter school, the museum school. And the students there, once a year, they come and interview residents. And now you have this intergenerational exchange of what was life like when you were my age, okay. And so you have that exchange, but then you have the seniors living in our communities starting to ask the kids, so what's your life like? And you just have this rich ability to appreciate each other's experience and be able to grow from each other. We really believe that intergenerational activities is the way to go.
Without question, because when it's all said and done, that senior is going to go, well, we're doing a lot of the same stuff that I did 65, 70 years ago. And then, here's this high school kids going, what? You guys did this? I thought we're the ones who invented fill in the blank. No, this has been going on for decades and all that. And there's a great connectivity with that as well. And if nothing else, I hope it gets to, the high school folks or college folks that, one of these days you will be old. Okay, that's a certainty. And hopefully many, many, many years from now. And I think to certainly appreciate it is really important in this. Talk about the hidden middle.
The hidden middle. So this is a great topic that we've been really focusing on for the last 3 years at St. Paul's. There's a demographic. When we talk about homeless seniors or PACE eligible, and PACE's program of all-inclusive care for the elderly. These programs are for individuals who are very impoverished. And what's happening, though, is you have older adults, and they have some assets, and they have some money in their nest egg. But what happens is they start to have healthcare issues, and those healthcare issues can start to require some out-of-pocket payments. And now suddenly those assets start to dwindle. And then those are the folks that in 5 years from now, they're at risk of becoming a statistic in the point in time count where suddenly they're let loose and they have no home and they're homeless and impoverished. So we're starting to look at how can we help people before that happens? Can we go upstream from the homelessness, go 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and say, what can we do to help them preserve their resources and get the health care they need so that they don't become a statistic for the point in time count?
Well, and I think everybody can, certainly relate to that, and they should pay attention to it. And it's so spot on. And it's great that you look at it now. Don't look at it until it becomes the issue. It's like everything, trying to make it preventative before you have to be reactionary on it. And so this is an interesting stat. 10,000 individuals a day in the U.S. turn 65. 10,000 a day turn 65. And then in the next decade, there could be over 300,000 seniors in San Diego. That's a monster number, Todd.
Huge numbers. And what they're telling us is that people have not been saving enough for their retirement. So as you have those growing numbers of older adults turning 65, how many of those, we're expecting about a third of them to have undersaved. Now, those are the individuals we want to start to target, if you will, services that can, again, help them stay, maintain their resources so they can stay in a home and, again, not become homeless. So, yeah, the number is growing in San Diego, and oftentimes we don't hear this enough in the public discourse of how are we going to address this social need, because right now, we focus on the immediate need, which is, okay, people that are homeless, and absolutely, that should be a top priority. But also, close by, we want to start to ask ourselves, going upstream, what can we do to prevent more people becoming impoverished and homeless?
No, there's no question about it. We're chatting with Todd Kaprielian. He is the Foundation Chief Executive Officer for St. Paul Senior Services. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest-running community podcast. We're in our 19th year, brought to you by the fine folks at Mission Fed Credit Union. 6 decades of doing such great things in our community, whether it's food insecurity, whether it's financial literacy, whether it's art, homeless. They are there, shoulder to shoulder. Much has been said about this, and there are reasons why we love having the Alzheimer's Association on the show. But that a fact of life is when you live longer, and we're living longer, things are going to happen, and that's one of them as well. What goes with that is that, and maybe you can address this, Todd, as you're living longer, more people are living with serious illness. Talk about that.
Yeah, so it's amazing how as people age, you will encounter more and more illness. And so the challenge we have is how can we mitigate those those health issues so they don't become bigger issues. And this is really the focus of the PACE model. So what we're asking is, how can we provide healthcare services to people upstream before they start to become impoverished and be able to have effective healthcare so that little problems stay little? If you neglect them, we all have that experience, we call it deferred healthcare, where we really should have something checked out or at least ask a professional for their advice, and we don't. And then suddenly, especially as you get to be advanced age, if you don't address it, you run the risk of falls, you run the risk of stroke, you run the risk of a number of things. And if you let it go that long, that's where a person can start to have a more complex problem than if you looked at it earlier on. And so that's where we're asking ourselves, okay, what would that model of healthcare look like? And so we've developed this presentation. It's called Health Reimagined. And we're starting to ask that question of what can we do ahead of time, further upstream for older adults so they get the healthcare services they need and try to mitigate the potential devastating effects of illness.
Yeah, when we come back, we're going to chat more with Todd Kaprielian, the Foundation Chief Executive Officer at St. Paul Senior Services. Todd, think about, other organizations you work with, whether it's Oasis or other groups or senior services, serving seniors and so forth. Our good friend Paul Downey, just retired from there. Paul used to work at my former boss over at the newspaper as well. And then I think we always want to save some time. What can our listeners do to support your efforts and really talk about this area of isolation? Because we're all going to be there at one point old, not necessarily isolated. When we return after this short message.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. Just always good to have our friends in from St. Paul Senior Services. Such amazing content that they share. Todd Kaprielian is joining us. He's the Foundation Chief Executive Officer for St. Paul's. He's been involved in the organization for 21 years. Right before break, we're just talking about we all know if we don't row in the same direction, not a good thing. And we work in silos. That's a surefire way of making sure someone goes out of business. Todd, talk about how you work with other groups that are in the space.
Absolutely. Thank you, Drew, for that question. Our PACE program is, the people eligible for it are very low income, very frail individuals. And so we have relationships with other senior care organizations. And what's been wonderful is that they become a referral source, because they're helping somebody, say like Elder Help, you got their volunteers going out, maybe they're driving someone on errands, or maybe it's Meals on Wheels, Oasis, serving seniors. They're all doing such great work. Well, they encounter somebody, and they get to know our outreach team, and they have them on speed dial, and they say, I think we have somebody that might be eligible for your program. They're interested in talking with you, because I've told them about it. I'm a trusted source. Can we get together. And so that's absolutely what the outreach team does. They talk to those individuals in their homes and explain the program and things like that. So really, we've been able to develop that referral network and be able to provide now wraparound healthcare services to help people stay at home. So now Elder Help, they can continue to do their magic, and they're doing it in concert with us. Same thing with Meals on Wheels, and really all of the organizations. The other relationship we have is that we're always in communication, and we share about what it is that we're experiencing frontline, what's happening to seniors. And that's really where we can have this interaction of how can we help each other. The more knowledge we have of each other's services, that allows us to be able to kind of address social need, be more responsive to the changing social need. So it's absolutely, we're very proud to have great relationships with all of the senior service providers. And it really came to show during the pandemic with COVID, how we all came together and really try to make everybody's life as easy as possible during a very hard time.
Well, it's a very difficult time, and it is now too, as we all know. There's certainly some challenges out there with resources, and we all know this. That it's going to make it more incumbent that we're working on this together and making people aware of it. And that just goes back to when you think about isolation. I was very, very fortunate. My mom lived to 95 years young, and we were lucky that when she passed away, it was before the pandemic. I just cannot imagine that if she was, homebound and we couldn't see her because of the pandemic. And we know there was a ton of folks. You guys know that better than anybody in this area. Yeah. But my point, I would love to see, us, whether it's, college kids or whatever, that say, listen, there are going to be some seniors here that they don't have family here. And if they're isolated, they don't have anyone to turn to. They have great folks like St. Paul's, senior services are serving seniors and all that. Is there a way to get more kids connected to these groups? You mentioned the school across the street, of course. But what other ways can we do that?
Yeah, we have a volunteer program. And we have a coordinator who works with people individually who would like to give back. And maybe it's something as simple as going to our assisted living community and calling bingo. I mean,
absolutely.
It doesn't have to be something extravagant. Sometimes it's just playing checkers with people. It's the fact that you're there, you're available, and it's all that chit-chat that happens while you're playing checkers. It really can be very rewarding for people who've been in isolation. So all of that, we're always looking for volunteers, especially coming out of the pandemic, because we just realize how important it is. So if you did go to the St. Paul's website, you'll see an opportunity there to set the ball in motion of becoming a volunteer. We do have a process. And it's all mapped out there on the website.
Well, you bring up something, on Meals on Wheels, of course, and different groups that deal with this. And they've been a frequent guest as well on the show. And when you think about it, there's many of those folks that the only time they have interaction with someone is when someone drops off their meal. When you think about that, and because they're very, very, on top of this, and they know they can't spend 20 minutes with every single person that dropped off a meal. They'll be doing it for 24 hours. But just that interaction is just absolutely just so critical. So I think just it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we understand this, that we can do it. I used to always say this to Amanda. Didn't do it to make her feel uncomfortable. This is Todd's former colleague and involved with marketing and communications. But, I think there's no question about it that we in this country can do a much better job with our seniors that you see in other countries, in other cultures. Native Americans do a really good job with their seniors. We're not so good at this. Or put it this way, we can be a lot better. How's that sound?
There's room for improvement.
Right.
How about that?
Yeah, there is. And, where someone else, no, I'm going to take care of because I'm going to be there. It is going to happen in that area. Talk about just some of the great challenges that are on the horizon, Todd.
Oh, gosh. Well, the challenges, there's a lot of change, on a federal level.
Right.
And St. Paul's, we're watching our organization. Fortunately, we've been asking ourselves 3 years ago, We've looked at, you mentioned 10,000 people
Right.
turning 65 every day. The system is going to break because there are so many people who are turning 65, and we just can't expect Medicare to be able to maintain the levels that they have for all these years. So in our mindset, we said, prepare for cuts. If you prepare for it and they never happen, fantastic. But if they do come, you'll be in a better position. And that's where we're at. We've been instituting changes in our programs for the last 3 years. We're continuing to do so. So, I'm going to knock wood here. We're in a position to weather storms, and
that's great.
Let's see how things unfold.
You brought up something interesting, that here we are in a credit union, and that we have our CEO on, Todd Wright, very great colleague of us at the Spotlight Show, and of course Cloudcast Media, and then Doug used to be the CFO for the organization, and you can't help but talk to a financial institution without saying, are people saving enough money for retirement? And they're not saving enough money to get out of college, for God's sake. Forget about retirement. And you brought up some of that. But if you think about it, and it really takes a little bit of a small investment. One of our guests last week was Steve Bernstein. Steve is a VP for Bank of California. And he said he was talking about with his kids, if you start putting a little money away now, doesn't have to be $4 billion, $50 a month or whatever it is, you'd be amazed where that looks like in X amount. Is there a way to start some of these accounts with seniors and say, and don't wait till you're 65 to start this?
You absolutely want to contribute to your 401k, or if you're at the nonprofit, 403b.
Yeah.
That absolutely, you are saving for the future, and you just need to build that up. One challenge that we have right now is that the people turning 65, the ones that are turning it right now, they're the first cohort that did not have pensions. Pensions started to fall by the wayside. So when they came into the workforce,
that's right,
back when they were 20 years old, let's say, it was, here's this thing called a 401k. And what is it? That was a new thing. And they said, how much do I need to save? And there wasn't an answer. So sometimes people saved, sometimes they didn't. So that's what can further complicate our situation as we have people, the tail end of the baby boomers turning 65. But you can't start soon enough.
Correct.
Please talk to your financial institutions that you work with or your workplace and contribute to that 401k. Do whatever you can to catch up as you go into your 50s and 60s, and do whatever you can and build that nest egg.
Yeah, and it is amazing when you do the math. It's a math number, obviously. And you literally say, I'm going to do $50 a month. I'm going to put it in this type of an account. And by the time, let's say I start when I'm, 21, when I hit 65, and if I've done that consistently, you will be surprised how much money you have in there. And I know we talk about it a lot with the young kids, but, getting them to understand you're going to be this age somewhere down the road. We're chatting with Todd Kaprielian. He's the Foundation Chief Executive Officer for St. Paul's Senior Services. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. Todd, what can we do to support the unbelievable work that St. Paul's has been doing now in its 65th year, if I'm doing the math right, in this aspect of it, to continue to elevate the great services you provide our seniors?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a campaign. We call it SPEND. St. Paul's Essential Needs Drive. And basically, this is for our PACE participants. These are very low-income individuals. And it's difficult sometimes for them to afford things like socks or sweatpants or hygiene products like shampoo or a toothbrush or toothpaste or deodorant, what have you. So we're asking people on November 20th, can you come by and make a contribution with these items? So you might be at Walmart, you might be at Costco, you might be at one of these places, and you see the pack of socks there. Just grab an extra one and put it in your cart. And then if you can bring that to St. Paul's at 328 Maple Street, that's in Bankers Hill. We're doing our big drive on the 20th. If you can't make it on the 20th, but you have some items, please bring them by, and we'll be able to take those from you.
Well, you got me thinking about something that we did when I was at the Union Tribune running community and public relations, and I got to meet a gentleman. I can't remember his name right now. Which just shows you my aging process, for God's sake. But he worked for Brother Benno's up in Oceanside, and he had contacted our publisher, Mrs. Helen Copley, who came down to me. He wanted to do a sock drive. And he said, the folks on the street, you want to stay warm. You got to cover your extremities. It's the ears, the hands, and the feet. They're short of socks. He goes, I'm proposing we do a sock drive, and I think it was with Kmart at the time. If you go in your sock drawer, I will guarantee you probably only use 1/3 of the socks, because the rest are pushed at the back. You've done your 8 socks, then you do a load, and they go right to the front again. And I go, you know what? I'm going to go check this out. So I went home and I did that. And he goes, I haven't worn these socks probably in 20 years, for God's sake, because it's in the back. He goes, take those 7 socks that you're never wearing, and you still have plenty of socks. We raised 100,000 pairs of socks.
Wow.
But to the point I'm thinking about on the spend, everybody has extra stuff.
Yes, we do ask for new.
I understand.
So.
No, but these these socks were rarely worn. They were, maybe once. It's crazy. They weren't bloodied. They weren't holes. They weren't. And it amazed me. He said, these are like brand new socks. Anyway, so we're not saying today you do secondhand sock drive, but, and it's really, anyone can support that. How do they get a hold of you? What's the best way of getting involved with St. Paul's?
Sure. Give me a call. 619-239-6900. Ask for Todd.
Well, there you go. You heard it right from the horse's mouth there. Todd Kaprielian, really appreciate you coming in. We love having you on multiple times. We've not done this yet. I don't think, to my knowledge. Would love to have you bring in a senior or two. That it's okay if you can transport them and they want to come on the air and chat about what St. Paul's means for them. We'd love to do that.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. I love it. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, Todd Kaprielian, he is the Foundation Chief Executive Officer for St. Paul's Senior Services. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast in our 19th year, brought to you by the fine folks at Mission Fed Credit Union. And to our listeners, we hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.